Hello and welcome to Seeing Red. It is March 18th, 2024. I am Will Leitch, alumnus of the Big Ten Conference Championship winning Illinois Fighting Illini, number 3 seed. I don't know who you are, Morehead State, but you'll pay on Thursday. I don't know about what's happened with BYU on Saturday. I don't like it when a team gets a seed line bumped down because they can't play on Sundays, and Illinois has to play them, but that's where BYU is. Anyway, I'm here with Bernie Mikolas. As always, emails seeingredpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter /X, seeingredpod on X, so on. Email seeingredpod@gmail. Definitely send us emails, seeingredpod@gmail.com. We're looking for emails as we get closer to the season. Obviously, Bernie, some big news since we talked last. Weird, before I get my thoughts on it, though, I did find the kind of weird Friday news dump strange, but we'll get into that.
Sure.
But you wrote a piece, a number of people that have emailed me this piece being like, oh, I was so mad. And then Bernie's piece talked me down off the ledge. So Bernie, I'm going to give you the opportunity to talk to anyone that may theoretically, I was at the Big Ten tournament with my son in Minneapolis. So we just kind of witnessed the anger rather than absorbed the anger because the Illini were on their way to a Big Ten Conference Championship. But I have some thoughts about it. But talk a little bit of your thoughts on what you wrote and your take on the Marmol extension.
Well, I knew without saying, even though I said it, it would be a very unpopular move with, I would say, a very large percentage of the fan base. We can only guess. A lot of it's based on social media and also personal interaction. But obviously a great deal. Many people were kind of ticked off about this. And I get that. And I'm not saying, I'm really not saying people should not be, I'm not saying people shouldn't be ticked off. I mean, you're entitled to your emotions. You're entitled to feel the way you want. But I also think that it's not quite as huge a deal as it's being made out to be, because I was surprised they let it get this far. I mean, it's never a good thing to let a manager go into his walk year without a contract, because he loses authority with the players. They wonder if he's going to be around. So therefore it's like, well, I don't have to listen to this guy. He's going to get fired. It sort of sets a manager up for failure. And the counterpoint to that would be, well, his job is to win. If he doesn't win, then that's all the reason why you shouldn't have extended his contract. Well, it just doesn't work that way. And this is the part that I think people need to understand, all due respect. They can fire him anyway. Now, I'm not saying they will, but you go back to 1995. I mean, they fired Joe Torre. He had time left on his contract. They fired Mike Matheny. He had time left on his contract. They fired Mike Shilk. Just first of all, he had time left on his contract, and he was about to sign a contract extension when they got into a big fight over who's in charge. They have fired their last two managers, and also the manager before, Tony La Russa, who had time remaining on a contract. I mean, this does not prevent them from firing Oli Marmol if there's a disaster. And let's be clear about something else. I mean, he doesn't have a Craig Counsell contract. He's not getting paid $8 million a year the way the Cubs are paying Craig Counsell. I don't think Oli Marmol, I don't think many managers in baseball right now make all that much money. I mean, it would be, for what Marmol makes, it would be like letting go of, a player making $1 million, $1.5 million, something like that. So
he's not an SEC football coach.
Yeah. So, I mean, right, exactly. There's no huge buyout. I think his contract, frankly, is rather, shall we say, economical. So it sends a message to the players. It's like, listen, you guys have had a good camp. We all think we've had a good offseason. People can disagree, but we like where we are. And we don't want to go into the season with, if the Cardinals, lose an early series, it means, well, it's over. And when's Yachty taking over? I mean, listen, people, including me, are kind of doing that already. I mean, before there's even any baseball, I mean, I've written and mentioned many, many times. It's like, well, they get off to a bad start, or if this is happening, you get to the All-Star break. Molina will be put in there. Well, first of all, why don't we play some baseball and then we'll see how the team's going to go. And by the way, I'm not basing anything on the first month of the season because Cardinals history tells us we shouldn't do that. I've seen teams get off to a fast start and fade. I've seen teams get off to a terrible start and then come on. There's a reason why it's 162 games. But anyway, for all the people that want Marmol gone, the fact that they extended his contract just to basically send the message to the clubhouse, hey, this is your manager, and he's probably going to be asking you to do things you may not at first think, I don't know about that. He's your manager. So any thought you have about, well, this guy will be gone by the All-Star break, so what? I don't have to listen to him. It just sort of removes all that stuff, and everybody's on the same page. Everybody's tied together, and it just sort of sets a mood. And he can still be sacked anyway. So the only thing I didn't like about it, I know I'm going on, man, sorry. The only thing I maybe didn't like about it, even though he was telling the truth, I'm talking about John Mozeliak, he was accurate, but I'm not sure he should have framed it the way he did, which was basically, well, if we get off to a bad start, I don't want everybody hollering and saying, fire the managers. So it almost signals to me, it came across as like, well, we're probably going to get off to a really bad start. So, I don't think that serves any useful purpose. Just play the games. Maybe they will get off to a bad start, but it doesn't mean the end of the season either, especially not with 3 wild cards. But just the way Mo framed it, like he's accurate. They didn't want to hullabaloo every time they lose a game in April because people would be going nuts, swinging from trees, screaming. I mean, they just didn't want that. And I think they're smart to just kind of subdue that. But they you can't say stuff that can be misinterpreted as you're saying, like, well, if we're losing early, that's okay. That's not what he meant, but that's how it's being interpreted. Anyway, I'll shut up. You talk, my man.
So obviously people were mad. And yeah, as you noted, people were going to be mad. I would
Sure.
hope that the Cardinals knew people would be mad. I think it gives me a little faith, I guess, that it did feel weirdly buried, like it is. Like to announce that Friday afternoon, like if they were to theoretically extend Jordan Walker, I assume that would not be a tweet that got sent out. They would be hey, the Cardinals have called a press conference for Monday afternoon, and then we all get excited about it, be a big deal. That's not what they did here. This was almost a, hey, just so you know, we're bringing Marmol back. We're extending him for 2 more years. And it didn't feel like a big ta-da moment. And the Cardinals love their ta-da moments. And it didn't feel like that. So I guess that's to their credit. But I think it's worth noting why people would be mad. On one hand, some
Sure.
people would be mad because they just don't like Marmol. And listen,
Fine.
I think that is a reasonable take. I'm not all the way there yet myself, but I understand last year was really rough. He did a lot of things that did not necessarily inspire a lot of confidence last year. However, I did not think it was malfeasance to bring him back this year. I understood things went weird. They believe they can get back on track. This is their guy. I was not surprised they did not fire him at the end of last year. I was not surprised that he came back this year. Even at a certain level, I'm not shocked that they extended him for the reasons that you discussed. The idea that that's to me one of the key things that everyone's missing is they will not miss whatever they have to eat if they if they fire him. It'll be fine. Like it's not very much money. He's not a highly paid guy. That's what's just one of the deal. Yeah, there is no Saban. There is no Texas A&M esque buyout or something
Yeah.
on this.
He's not making Jimbo Fisher money.
Exactly. So
Yes.
that's a fair point. But I think the real reason that people are mad, I think some people are just mad about Marmol, but the real reason that they are mad is a little bit about Marmol, but more about the idea that, hey, I thought the front office was supposed to be really pissed off about what happened last year. I thought there were going to be wholesale changes. They were
Well,
explicit about this at the end of last year. And listen, not to say the Cardinals did not do anything. You and I have been more praising of things that they've done than I think a lot of other people have. But the notion of all right, last year was a disaster that can never happen again. And we joked last year when they had the outfield battles. It was like the Joker in the Dark Knight, and he cuts the pool cue in half and says, "Okay, we're having tryouts." That was the idea. I was under the understanding for this year is that okay, last year was so bad that cannot happen again. And I think personally, I think it's more alarming. I don't. There's a part of me that worries that the Cardinals organization and front office does not appreciate the ramifications of another bad year like the one that they just had. Not saying just missing the playoffs, but like a bad year, which again is possible. I don't think it's likely, but it's certainly possible. And I think that would be more damaging for the Cardinals in the short and long term than they appreciate. But more to the point, that was kind of what the understanding was, is that this year has to be different. And everybody's jobs are on the line. Everybody's accountable. Everybody has to face up for what happens this year. I agree. There's been some injuries of this camp, but there hasn't been a bad vibe from this camp. There wasn't a bad vibe last year, probably I feel obliged to point out, but there hasn't been a bad vibe from this camp. That you heard Mo talk about how impressed he was with how camp was run, about how Marmol certainly was not pouting or frustrated he seemed to be back in the spot that he was a couple years ago, where he was confident in charge and they're hoping the veteran leadership, blah, 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 all the things we all know about the team. But the worries, I think people were mad not just that Marmol was extended, but okay, well, I guess we're just I guess we're not having everything on the line this year. I guess guys are getting rewarded after a clearly disastrous year. And I think that was the concern. I agree with you. But I think the worry is not, oh no,
well,
the worry is not, oh no, if Marmol gets fired, DeWitt's going to be out an extra couple years salary. That's not the worry. The worry is if things go bad and Marmol is bad again, they won't fire him. I think that's the worry, is this is a sign that if things do go bad, even though they perfectly can, and money shouldn't be the issue, the idea that they're not concerned enough about the possibility or not, okay, we're having tryouts about Marmol this season to give him that confidence that I think a lot of people don't necessarily feel like he's earned. I think that's what people were afraid of, were frustrated about, less so that we hate Marmol so much.
Well, I got a different view of it, which is I'll try to put it concisely, which is hard for me at times. I've been very consistent in this opinion. I wasn't a fan of Marmol's managing last season, but I also have believed, and I have said it and written it a bunch of times. The downfall of the 2023 Cardinals was because of the front office neglect in doing absolutely nothing with their starting rotation. Every fan knew it. Every media person knew it. Everybody knew it. What are you doing? You don't have a starting rotation that's going to be able to do much for you, let alone be good in 2023. As it turned out, all of those fears, they weren't the result of paranoia. They weren't the result of people overreacting. The fears were very much legitimate. And the Cardinals had the worst starting pitching ERA in a season in the history of the franchise. So we're talking about, well over 100 years, the worst starting pitching. Now, who was responsible for that? How could anyone fairly and just even with a straight face blame Marmol for that when we were all screeching before the season, before it even started? You don't have enough starting pitching. It's not good. It's not deep enough. What are you doing? You're setting yourself up for a disaster. So for anyone to kind of retroactively blame that on Marmol, to me, is terribly unfair. But again, people are entitled to what they believe. So I would put out there on the table, maybe one of the reasons why they extended his contract is because they know that they screwed up more than anybody. They put him in a horrible spot even before the first damn pitch was thrown last season. And maybe it's like, you know what? This whole thing was bad last year, but we didn't give this guy a fair chance. Not with that starting pitching. We screwed up. And that's one thing, Moselle, like I said over and over and over again. They screwed up. They know that they failed. I think a lot of that had to go within their thinking. It's just not fair to the guy. You let him walk. You got him walking the plank because we didn't do our jobs the right way. So I see it that way, and I think actually there's no doubt in my mind that played a role in this. The other thing that played a role in this, and again, I'm not saying this after the fact. I've said it on our podcast, and I've written it, said it on my radio show. I've been impressed since all off season with the way Marmol has handled this. He's never been bitter. He's never been paranoid. He's never been angry. He hasn't been looking over his shoulder. He recruited Yadier Molina. He talked to him all the time, just saying, come on, you got to join us. You got to join us. You got to join us. Like I reported, and I'll say it again, he had a talk with Albert Pujols. He said, anything I can do to help you become a manager, you call me anytime, whatever I can do. And I know I can't talk to you about it because you're under control with the Angels, but I hope you come back to the Cardinals in some capacity. I don't care if it's even being the manager. I hope you come back. You're a Cardinal. But, you can't have any formal discussions about that. No, Marmol told me I got together with him in the offseason and had a really good talk. And he said, I said, fans are really mad. They're mad at you. They're mad. He said they should be mad. They should be livid. We're livid. I'm livid. I'm embarrassed. I thought it was disgraceful. I'm ashamed of how we did. Fans ought to say whatever they want to say. They can get on me or get on anybody, but get on me. Just give it to me as hard as they want, as much as they want. And I'm not going to flinch, because when you have a season that bad, you deserve all the criticism that comes your way. He was very, very consistent with that approach. He was very consistent with that approach publicly. He was very consistent with that privately, and he handled a really bad season. The worst thing could have happened. He has a really bad season. He knows everyone hates him. Everyone's blasting him. Okay. And then that's when, like a Mike Matheny, for example, would have gotten paranoid. He would have gotten terribly insecure. He would have said, well, everybody's out to get me. Look, everybody's out to get me. And he took the opposite approach. I was impressed by that. Even Mike Schilt got incredibly paranoid and insecure for no reason. They'd play really bad for a while, and he'd get really defensive, like in press conferences, and he'd be whining behind the scenes about it. Well, this media is doing this. They're right there. They're acting like we're out. It's just like, dude, you're a manager. This is part of the job. So I thought that the way it was almost like the Cardinals, I'm not saying they did this by design. I think the Cardinals wanted to see how he handled going 71 and 91 and all the anger and hatred that was spewed in his direction. I think they wanted to see, his comportment. They wanted to see his attitude.
I'm grateful they put us all through that, to put him through the test.
I know. I'm just saying. But I just think, listen, the failure of 2023 started at the top, and it started at the baseball operation. Every single one of those people in there, and the manager. Listen, I take pride. I'm going to sound insufferable here, but I'm going to say it anyway, and then I'll shut up. I take pride in the fact that I was the only media person in this market from early on the season till the end of the season that just went nuts all the time about the collapse in defense, how it was really destroying the team, making a bad set of pitchers even worse. They weren't doing anything about it. Their base running declined. Their fundamentals were abhorrent. I raised hell about that for 6 months. And finally, people sort of got around to it once the season was over. It was a huge issue, and I hold Oli Marmol and the coaching staff responsible for that. So they let everybody down with because they let things slide without doing much, if anything, about it. But to me, this whole thing was set up because there was no starting pitching that could ever get you through any kind of season when you have the Milwaukee Brewers in there, and then you let the defense and the base running slide. I mean, it was almost like a forfeiture in that, like, basically you have no chances of winning with this.
But
So
isn't
I
that partly the pitching isn't Marmol's responsibility.
no, exactly.
The base running and the defense is?
Exactly. Well, that's why I blasted him for 6
Yeah,
months.
right.
I mean, I actually wrote, and I probably said it on this podcast. I just said the collapse of the defense and the base running and the fundamentals, it's a fireable offense. Like, in other words, I think that if they wanted to push it, that would have been a fireable offense. I wrote that a bunch of times. I was viewed as like the town loudmouth. Well, Bernie, he's a little unstable, or whatever. I mean, it was unbelievable. It's like,
I don't want to talk to anyone
am,
that says that about you. By the
am,
way.
am
Anyone that
I,
says-
I would sit up here in this office where we record Seeing Red on my end anyway, and I'd just be like, am I nuts here? Like, why aren't people in the media raising hell about this? This is a big deal. Or am I crazy? No,
I don't think you're. I don't think you're crazy, and I frankly, I'd like to have a few words with those that were blasting my friend Bernie during that time.
He's I don't know. He's kind of like flown. He's off the. He's just gone nuts.
Pistols and gone with
going
those
crazy.
people, as far as I'm concerned.
I said to Marmol, I said to him, listen. I said, I know you read stuff. I said, I was pretty brutal on you last year. He said, oh, you don't have to tell me. He said, you just full blast. Yeah, base running, fun, and full blast all the time. I said, well, did you take it personally? No. He said, like I told you. He said, when we're that bad, everybody should just bury us. Everyone should crush us. We have no right to complain. I'm impressed by that. I'll be even more impressed if they prioritize defense and fundamentals and base running. If they do that, that's even more impressive. You can say those things. Now I want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, and again, so I definitely agree that he not only clears but soars over the Matheny bar. I want to be as clear as possible
No doubt.
about that. There is never, I mean, like that is, but I hope that's not our gauge on this. And
No.
I would just say, listen, I practically speaking, I understand the extension. I understand the extension for the reasons specifically that you said. The idea of there is value. Basically, there's too many things. There's the value in the team knowing this is our guy, so he's not getting pounded from the very beginning if they were to theoretically get off to a slow start, and be the idea that whatever, he's gone. Anyway, I mean, the idea that he's now extended 1 year past Mo, I'm just going to go ahead and make a prediction. If Mo is not in charge in 2026,
Yep.
I'm going to bet that Marmol's not going to be the manager.
Unless they're doing well, of course.
Yeah, right, exactly. Unless he retires on top or something, and then everybody, and then whoever, whether it's Bloom or anybody else, the idea that or Gersh or anybody else, the idea that things have gone bad and Mo's gone but Marmol's still here is insane. Like, that's obviously not going to be the case.
No, that's right.
It feels a little bit like. It feels like one of those fake football NFL extensions where the last year is just going to get lopped off anyway if things go poorly, and if they go great, awesome, no big deal. So it's not the extension. Like, the extension itself I don't sweat. It's just, I don't think it's unreasonable for people to be like, wait, what? That after last year?
Well,
you're and it's not even. It's not Marmol.
I agree with you, and if I had a criticism, I offered the one criticism already, like them talking about, well, if we get off to a bad start, well, our managers got to be protected. Right. To even put that out there is just stupid. It's just kind of stupid. I mean, it's just like, you don't even have to go there. Your actions speak for themselves. You've extended his contract. You don't express your fear of a slow start because there's already enough of that in the bloodstream. I mean, my goodness, local media in St. Louis, I mean, the season's already over from what I've read and what I hear, oh, they got to play the Dodgers. Oh my God. Then they got to play the Padres. Oh, they're going to be dead by the middle of April. They'll be dead. I tell you,
this is not in fact college football schedule.
It's like, the Earl Weaver, the famous thing. It's like, we do this every day. We play 162. This ain't football. And it's like, it's so strange to me to watch Cardinals fans and people who should know better, like, acting like this is an NFL schedule. I mean, my goodness, they've been playing at least 154 games since Teddy Roosevelt was in the White House. teams have been playing 154. Kennedy was in the White House when they switched to 162. It's not like this is a new thing. This isn't the NFL, okay? Baseball's got its own cadence. You can get off to a terrible start and recover. On the other hand, you can get off to a fast start and then, fall apart. That's why that's sort of the nature, and I think the uniqueness of the 162 game schedule. But the one thing I would, and I didn't put this in my column because I thought about it over the weekend. I think one of the reasons why people were, going nuts for reasons that you explained very well, it just was kind of caught everyone off guard. It's like, well, what are they doing? They should have done it a lot earlier. Like if this was their guy and
that's an argument. That's a good argument.
If they were convinced that this was their guy and all the things Bill DeWitt and John Mozeliak said, told Derek Gould and others, but they clearly were supporting Oli Marmol. They claim they never wavered in their support. I actually tend to believe that just simply because they did extend this contract when we were all led to believe, at least that was our impression, that would not happen this soon. They'd have to see something first that would warrant it. Well, I think you can make the case like, listen, if he was your guy all along, you should have extended him in the offseason. He should have never gone to spring training as a lame duck manager. I don't like lame duck manager ideas. I don't care where it is. It's just not a good thing. It's not a healthy thing. But if Ollie's your man and you believe in him and you realize that everybody screwed up in 2023 and they pointed the fingers at themselves, they even said, yeah, I didn't have a good year. Mo didn't have none of us had a good year. So if you don't want to make the manager the fall guy for an entire organizational breakdown, then you should have extended him much sooner than you did. You should have never let this go into spring training.
After you make the 3 pitcher signings, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, like that seems like the time to have done it.
No, really. And then I say that knowing that, there'd probably still be pretty low.
There'd be people upset.
They'd still be mad, but at least they would have time to understand.
But it's a weird time, just as a matter of public relations.
Yeah, right.
It's a weird time to do it right now.
Right. No, it is. It is.
So I mean to get us off on the other start, but I did.
It's good stuff. It's great. It's great stuff to talk about. It really is.
But I don't know. I just feel like, again, I say this as a skeptic of Marmol, but not against, like, I'm not, the door is not closed on Marmol for me. I think he did a good job in 2022, and I don't think he did a good job in 2023. I'm not sure anyone could have done a good job in 2023. And so I'm comfortable with him managing 2024. And if he has a good year, or if they make the playoffs, or if they win it, whatever, I think making the playoffs, I think, is the bar. I would say, even if it's the third wild card, I'm comfortable with him being a manager in 2025. Like I am not an Marmol person. I'm not sold, to be as clear as possible. I'm not sold.
Listen,
I'm not entirely sold he's better than Schilt, but we'll see. That's up in the air. I know he's better than Matheny. But that is just the idea of, ever since they made those pitcher signings, which were good signings, and I'm glad, and I wish they would have done more, but ever since they made those pitchers 3 signings, everything, and those signings were just like Mo talked about, for all of August and September last year, this off season, we're changing stuff. This off season, like this is bad. We cannot let this happen. And ever since they made that 3 pitching signing, everything else has been a little bit of a step back, a little bit of a this, a little bit of the division's not going to be too great. We're not going to be, we're worried about the TV contracts, so on. And all of those things have that initial urgency. Yeah. It feels like it's been a slow walk back.
But how long has that been in place? Like, in other words, why punish the manager for that?
Oh, I agree. But to me, that's why it's a public relations thing.
Right.
Than necessarily, like, this feels, this is the best way I can put this. I don't necessarily think that extending Marmol is inherently a mistake. I think the mistake is saying so now rather than 3 months ago.
Yeah, the timing should have been better. I mean,
and puts Marmol in a bad position.
Yeah,
because now people are all yelling at Marmol.
People are going to be yelling at, they're going to be yelling anyway. And by the way, can I tell Cardinals fans that listen to us, we love you, thank you. Even if I, especially me, hollering about everything. If I offend you or annoy you in any way. Seriously, I'm not trying to, but I just got to be who I am and say what I think. That's the whole point of this. But can I just say one thing? I was in a thing the other night. It wasn't really bad. It wasn't hostile or anything. I was a little cranky, probably even, talking about the next manager of the Cardinals, and he said, well, this just delays the inevitable. It just delays the inevitable because we all know Molina's in place. That's Mozeliak. He recruited him the organization. We know who the next manager is going to be. So why not just get it over with or whatever? And I'm like, can I call a 30-second timeout? Why are you convinced the next manager would be Molina? Why are you so 100% convinced that Yachty is in place? And it's going to happen. It's inevitable. It's 100%. So why don't you why fool around and just as soon as Yachty's ready, give him the job? Well, because there might be even a more prominent Cardinal who wants that job. And by the way, where is Yachty exactly?
Yeah, I got.
I mean,
there's no bigger skeptic of the Yachty manager stuff.
I know. So it's like so. I'm just gonna say, and I think I'm being very reasonable. It's like let's just slow down. It's like, oh, it's inevitable. Yachty's the next manager, and it's gonna happen soon. When Albert Pujols very publicly tells everyone, I gave it. So I really want to manage. I really want to manage in the big leagues. I really want to be a manager, and I'm going to start by managing the winter leagues and down in the Dominican Republic. And it's just I know I got to start managing somewhere, but I want to manage in a big. When the second greatest position, we can say Musial, then Gibson, but the second best position player in the history of the franchise, who is universally heralded for his baseball intelligence and the respect that he commands and his ability to work with young players, and every box he checks. When he tells you, oh, by the way, one day I'd like to manage a team, or not this team, I'd like to be a manager. Doesn't that move him to the head of the line? Am I being graceless for suggesting that? Am I being unfair to Molina for suggesting that? I don't think so.
I'm a little bit more confident that Pujols will show up on work on time every day. Like I definitely don't see Pujols like running off to go coach a basketball team somewhere.
Well, that's right, man. You're right.
And I say that not criticism of. I love Yachty. Come on, we all love Yachty. But like, I don't know, man. A lot of Yachty stuff feels like, I want to be manager, right? Make me manager, without necessarily wanting to put, like, did he still not showed up at spring? He never showed up at spring training.
No, so that's what I'm talking about. And again, it's like, well, you can't, don't blame Marmol, because the Cardinals and Yachty and Molina are flirting with each other. And apparently he's got a gig where he can show up when he wants. I mean, I don't know why that is that cool? I don't think that's cool. That's just me, especially when
I think that's weird. Yeah.
Especially when he has proclaimed his desire to be a manager and he's dropping an obvious hint. Well, my goodness. I can understand taking a little downtime after the Caribbean World Series, but where are you, man? I mean, come on. I mean, they're working on a lot of things down there. What you couldn't be helping Wilson Contreras and Ivan Herrera right now, or among other things. So this whole thing where Yachty is inevitable, I'm throwing a challenge flag to that one. Not to mix in football,
to say the least. To say the least.
It's like
I would like. Also, that is totally not how Mo operates at all, even when it comes to Yachty. Maybe Chaim Bloom runs this team someday and says, all right, Yachty, go for it. I can see it, but Mo likes to have control, baby. And you can't control. I don't know. I've never bought the Yachty stuff. I still don't buy the Yachty stuff. He still has not shown up for work. This is not even to say what a jerk. Like, Yachty's got other stuff going on. I understand, but if he wants to be a manager, you gotta show up.
Yeah. And far be it for me to engage in conspiracy theories, but what the hell everyone else does. Let me throw this at you, Mr. Will Leitch. Do you think that maybe, just maybe, that somehow entered into the decision to extend Marmol now?
I mean, I don't know. It's just, what, who knows? Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe is a good answer. It
Yeah.
is.
Okay. So I want to do one thing. We're not going to do any. We've already kind of already previewed the divisions last week, so I want to kind of close out because we went long on this because the Cardinals extended their manager. It's a big thing to talk about, and we'll do our kind of season preview podcast next week. I do want to talk about Miles Mikolas though, who was named the opening day starter. Um, which is fine. Like I kind of the minute we saw that Gray was not going to make the start, though it looks like he's not going to go on the injuries list, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't know, maybe maybe we just give Michaelis getting knocked around out of the way against the Dodgers. I don't know. I'm not sure it's getting to win anyway. I'm like Mo. I'm nervous about how the team's going to start. But I have to say, and as longtime listeners of this show know that my patience for Miles Mikolas as a pitcher is roughly equivalent to my patience with him as a personality, which is low. Is low. I will say he kind of got his turd Ferguson on. Like, look, I'm wearing a funny hat after he got rocked that one time and put the cowboy hat on. Like he's like. I would say Michaelis loves to pretend to be the ace of a staff without actually being the ace of a staff. But here's is actually my thing with him that he seems to be trying to start some sort of Dodgers Cardinals thing, which, hey, I mean, I guess, caviar, have your caviar dreams, I suppose. I'm sure the Dodgers are like, oh no, I hope the Cardinals don't start something with us. I don't think they're sweating that at all. But it's very bizarre for me, for Michaelis, to act as if the Cardinals are just this plucky little lovable, like they're like the 2005, like they're the Moneyball A's or something, where like they're this plucky underdog team where the owners are and they don't, the owners are just like, please sir, may I have some more, and they can't afford anything, and these tiny and these big bad Steinbrenner horrible rich guy Dodgers are just stomping on the little guy. And this is where I start getting provincial. To toss in we're just the Midwestern farmers. Now, I don't know.
How dare he say something about, how dare he blasphemy Mattoon like that?
For the record, Mattoon, A.
Yeah,
And
I'm
B,
sorry. I'm sorry.
sorry, we get very sensitive about that. But B, I actually have I have farmers in my family. One of our favorite people, shout out to the Doles, our favorite people to go to Cardinals games with are farmers. I got a dirty secret for people from Florida who don't know anything about Midwestern farmers. They're not poor. Midwestern farmers are not poor. And that's great. They work hard, right? They work very hard. No one is saying that they don't work hard, but they're not poor. It's a lucrative industry. You work hard for it and you are rewarded accordingly. So and often sometimes by the government, actually, but that's a whole other discussion. At a certain level, the notion that, the notion that Michaelis is trying to start something with the Cardinals and Dodgers is kind of hilarious, and it makes me feel very Don Draper-esque, where the little ad exec stops in the elevator and says, "What do you? I don't even like you. What do you even think of me? I don't even know what you even think of me." And Draper's like, "I don't think about you at all." I suspect that's how the Dodgers feel about the Cardinals, but also like Michaelis, we're just humble Midwestern farmers. Feels like Florida man, like playing public relations with a crap when he's not pitching well again. Michaelis is a fifth starter on this team as far as I'm concerned. I understand why he's the lead guy. He acts like the lead guy, and this team is pretty much enough after Gray. But I gotta tell you, like, Michaelis, who's assigned for another year after this one, by the way, my patience is already completely done with Miles Michaelis, and opening day hasn't even started yet.
Number one, I'm actually an optimist about his season. I think he's going to have a good season simply because I trust that they're going to have a defense behind him this year. They're going to, kind of imagine that, you don't strike out a bunch of guys. You got to have a good defense behind you, which is how Dave Duncan and Tony La Russa won a lot of games, by the way. But that's neither here nor there. My regret with Michaelis is that I do think he's naturally eccentric, and I do think he's flaky. And when I say flaky, I don't mean in a bad way. But I think a lot of it, like his natural eccentricity is fine, but I think he wants to play it up, and I think he sort of engages in performance to come across as this. He said what? Oh, did you hear what he said now? he's really trying. A lot of this is play acting. And my thing is, we all know the Dodgers. First of all, I'm tired of the play acting. We saw that last year. He's calling over. He's trying to call out the Cubs dugout, and all that kind of stuff. He needs to just worry about his pitching. And listen,
he could be as crazy
yeah,
as you want.
and he could be candid. He could say a lot of things. He speaks the truth, which I respect. But on the other hand, I would prefer. I don't know if it matters, but I would prefer, if given a choice, that the Cardinals kind of just, could just kind of ease their way into the season in terms of not drawing all that much attention to themselves and just go play some ball. You prove it on the field. You prove it over 162 games. You don't have to talk about it, especially when you just lost 90 plus games for the first time since 1990. And before that, it was 1978. It's not the time for trash talk, I mean, he can do what he wants, but I'm just saying the time, just like the contract extension, perhaps the timing's just not good. You have plenty of time for theatrics later.
Yeah, I'm just, I don't know. It's just Mikolas.
And
It drives me nuts.
And the other thing I'm gonna file this in advance is, if the Cardinals go into Dodger Stadium and they lose 3 out of 4, let's say, right? The narrative. In fact, gentlemen and ladies, start writing your narratives right now. You can have it ready to send as soon as that series is over. Miles Mikolas fired up the Dodgers. No, the Dodgers are a hell of a team. They don't need to be fired up to beat the Cardinals or anyone else for that matter. I'm talking about regular season baseball.
Yeah, I will say, if the Dodgers are like, oh, well, now we're going to play hard, I'm concerned if they're suddenly upset about the Cardinals. They have we talk about the Cardinals having a lot on the line. The Dodgers have to win the World Series this year.
Yeah.
They're pretty much that. But Andy Mikolas has a really good piece in The Athletic about that this week. So I don't know. I just Mikolas on opening day against the Dodgers, it's a little bit of a shield your eyes situation. So adding fuel to that, and again, acting as if he knows anything about investor farming, I thought was pretty hilarious. I will say. Okay, the last thing I'm going to close on. We have a tournament pool. I own the Will Leitch newsletter tournament pool. For those that don't know, I write a weekly free newsletter, williamfleach.substack.com, and every year I do the pool. And whoever wins gets to assign. We do both men's and women's, and whoever wins gets to assign me a topic for the newsletter, gets copies of all 6 of my books, or your gift can be to decline all 6 of my books. That's totally fine too. And to actually let me know why. Your books suck, I don't want them. That's fine. You've earned that right. And the third thing that you get to do is on either this or my movie podcast, Grierson Leach, or my Georgia football podcast, Waiting Since Last Saturday. Whoever wins gets 60 seconds to say whatever they want. We'll bleep you if we have to, but to say 60 seconds, whatever they want. If you're a listener to this podcast and have always wanted to just have free 60 seconds to just say Leach, I just taking the 60 seconds to let Will know I'm rejecting his books and do not like him and go Cardinals. That's fine. You can say whatever the heck you want. So enter the pool. It's on ESPN. You can also find it on it's on our Twitter page, Seeing Red Pod. It's on my Twitter page. It's on everything you can find with me. It's up there on all my social media. Join up and follow along to watch the eventual national champion Illinois Fighting Illini, who I was able to watch in Minneapolis this week with my son. Had a very, very great time. Minneapolis is a great American city.
It is,
by the way. It's far away, but it's a great, great American city that I had a very, very good time being in. So join the pool, and you can have 60 seconds to tell me to shut up at any time, as I'm sure you have all wanted to do many times on this podcast. So join that. Bernie, do you have a winner? Have you filled out?
No, I'm working on it. I think I'm an Illinois fan. I do think that they're in a tough spot. I really do in terms of potential matchup.
The whole East region is rough.
And I'm not going to get into the numbers on this, but Ken Pomeroy's got it's not a formula. It's just his ratings every year can tell us a lot. For example, 15. I'll give you one number. 15 of the last 16 tournaments have been won by a team that ranks in the top 35 offensive efficiency and the top 35 defensive efficiency. 15 of the last 16. The only exception was UConn, I think, in 2014, but I could be one of those UConn teams. Uh, as much as I really dig the Fighting Illini, man, they're way outside that number on the defensive side. So that would be draw a line through them as far as winning the national championship. Because I really do think you have to D up to win that, and you want to be balanced. You have to, and I that's my concern about them. Can they summon the kind of defensive performance? Frankly, we just haven't seen all that often from them down the stretch.
It's a reasonable question. The defense has not been great. The offense has been great. It's actually been better, allotting for the fact that
Oh, it's
all college
great.
basketball offense is better than it was 10
Fantastic.
years, like
Yep.
15 years ago. It's actually a better offense efficiency wise than the D Brown,
No doubt.
Darren Williams team. So it's pretty, which they've been very, very fun. As far as it comes to the offense, I've just taken a 3 chords in the truth attitude about the offense. Just like it's like a Rex Grossman, just throw it downfield and see what happens. Let's be legends. So I'm loving the offense. So I'm full on Illinois. So join our bracket. You can find our Twitter page. Go to ESPN. Just type in Will Leitch. It'll pop up, and you can tell me and Bernie, or specifically me, to buzz off.
Absolutely.
We're going to be a day late next week because I'm traveling on Monday, but our season preview episode will be up before the season starts because we are like 10 days from the start of a Cardinals' first baseball game with Miles Mikolas, so presumably wearing the funny oversized Turd Ferguson hat onto the mound at Dodger Stadium.
He's a fisherman.
He's a fisherman. He's not a farmer.
I mean,
that
he's a
I know.
fisherman. I mean, would you make fun? Would you make fun of the character in a Hemingway novel? Hemingway novel, who's a fisherman?
I guarantee you, Mikolas considers himself that kind of character. I don't know if I necessarily buy it. All right, Bernie.
What do you have against fishermen anyway?
I've got pro fisherman. I am a fisherman. Teach a man to fish, and he'll be able to feed himself with funny hats for decades, or however the Bible verse goes.
All right,
Bernie. Have a great one. We'll be back next week to preview the start of the season.
All right. Take care, man.